The most dangerous lie you've been told is that being a good person means saying yes to everyone who asks for your help. Right now, somewhere in the world, there's a talented doctor who will never cure cancer because she's too busy helping her lazy brother move apartments. There's a brilliant inventor whose world-changing idea will die with him because he can't say no to his neighbor's weekend projects. There's a future leader who will never lead because she's trapped in the prison of other people's expectations. Your kindness is killing your destiny. And the people you're trying so hard not to disappoint are the very ones preventing you from becoming who you were meant to be. The cruel truth is this: every time you say yes to someone else's small dream, you're saying no to your own big one. There was a woman named Maria who could design buildings that touch the sky, but she couldn't design a life that belonged to her. Every morning she would wake up with a list of dreams in her heart and a phone full of other people's demands. By evening, the dreams were still there, but buried under a mountain of favors, requests, and obligations that weren't hers to carry. Maria was an architect, one of the most talented in her city. She had visions of creating structures that would change skylines and inspire generations. But somewhere along the way, she became the person everyone called when they needed something. Her brother needed help moving. Her neighbor needed someone to watch her kids. Her co-workers needed her to cover their shifts. Her friends needed her to plan their events. And Maria, with that beautiful heart of hers, said yes to everything. You see, Maria had fallen into the most dangerous trap known to human potential, the prison of yes. And what makes this prison so deadly is that it doesn't look like a prison at all. The bars are made of appreciation. The walls are built with gratitude. The guards are people who smile and say thank you, but make no mistake about it, it is still a prison. And the person holding the key is you. Maria's story isn't unique right now as I speak to you. There are millions of Marias walking this earth. People with incredible gifts, extraordinary talents, and world-changing ideas, but they're trapped in a cycle of saying yes to everyone except themselves. They've become so addicted to being needed that they've forgotten what it feels like to need something for themselves. The tragedy of Maria's life wasn't that people asked her for help. The tragedy was that she had convinced herself that her worth was measured by how much she could do for others. She had confused being helpful with being valuable. She had mistaken being busy with being important. And in the process, she had lost the most precious thing a human being can possess, the right to choose her own path. Every time Maria said yes to someone else's priority, she was saying no to her own dreams. Every time she put someone else's urgent request ahead of her own important goals, she was teaching the world that her time had no value, that her dreams could wait, that her purpose was negotiable. And the world, being the opportunist that it is, took full advantage of her generosity. But here's what Maria didn't understand, and what most people don't understand. When you say yes to everything, your yes becomes meaningless. When you're available for everyone, you're valuable to no one. When you try to be everything to everybody, you end up being nothing to yourself. The cost of being a people pleaser isn't just your time or your energy. The real cost is your identity. When you live your life saying yes to everyone else's agenda, you lose track of what your own agenda was supposed to be. You become a supporting character in everyone else's story, and you forget that you were meant to be the hero of your own. Maria would lie in bed at night, exhausted from a day of serving other people's dreams, and she would feel this hollow aching in her chest. She couldn't name it at first. She thought maybe she was just tired. Maybe she needed a vacation. Maybe she needed vitamins. But what she really needed was permission. Permission to disappoint people. Permission to say no. Permission to put her own dreams first for once in her life, you see. The people around Maria had gotten comfortable with her availability. They had come to expect her sacrifice. They had built their convenience on the foundation of her compliance. And when someone has been conditioned to expect your yes, asking for your no feels like betrayal to them. But here's the truth that will set you free. Their disappointment in your boundaries is not your responsibility to manage. Maria's breaking point came on a Tuesday evening. She was sitting in her small apartment, surrounded by architectural sketches that she had been working on for months. Her dream project, a community center that could change lives. She'd been so close to finishing the proposal, so close to submitting it to the city council. But then her phone rang. It was her sister asking her to babysit again because she wanted to go out with friends. And without thinking, out of pure habit, Maria heard herself saying yes. After she hung up the phone, Maria looked at those sketches, looked at her dreams spread out on the table, and something inside her broke. Not in a bad way, but in the way that sometimes things need to break before they can be rebuilt stronger. She realized that she had been living her life on everyone else's terms. And somewhere in the process, she had become a stranger to herself. That night, Maria made a decision that would change everything. She decided that her dreams were not optional. She decided that her time was not free. She decided that her yes was a gift, not a given. She decided to learn the most powerful word in the human language, the word that would set her free from the prison she had built around herself. She decided to learn how to say no. And in that decision, Maria took the first step toward reclaiming her life, her dreams, and her destiny. Because until you learn to say no to what doesn't matter, you'll never have the time, energy, or focus to say yes to what does. Now let me tell you about David, a young man who almost lost everything because he didn't understand the power behind the word no. David had started a small tech company from his garage, working 18-hour days, pouring his heart and soul into building something that could change the world. His software was revolutionary. His vision was clear and his determination was unshakable. But David had one fatal flaw. He couldn't say no to anyone who needed help. When his old college roommate called asking for a loan to start his own business, David said yes. When his neighbor needed someone to help with his moving company on weekends, David said yes. When his cousin asked him to build a website for free, David said yes. When his former coworker needed someone to mentor his son, David said yes. One yes led to another and another, until David's calendar looked like a charity organization's schedule rather than a focused entrepreneur's agenda. But here's what David discovered the hard way. When you try to help everyone, you end up helping no one, including yourself. His revolutionary software project started falling behind schedule. His investors began asking questions. His team started losing confidence. And David, the man with the $1 million idea, was spending his time doing $50 favors for people who wouldn't even remember his kindness a month later. The truth that David learned, and the truth that you must understand today, is that boundaries are not walls built to keep people out. Boundaries are gates, and you are the gatekeeper. A gate serves a purpose. It allows the right things in at the right time, and it keeps the wrong things out at all times. When you remove the gate, you don't create freedom, you create chaos. David's business partner, James, watched this happening and finally confronted him. James said something that changed David's entire perspective. David, every time you say yes to helping someone else build their dream, you're saying no to building your own. Every time you give away your time for free, you're telling the world that your time has no value. And if your time has no value, then neither does your dream. This is where most people get confused. They think that saying no makes them selfish. They think that protecting their time makes them uncaring. They think that setting boundaries makes them hard-hearted. But let me tell you something that will revolutionize your thinking. There is a massive difference between being selfish and being self-aware. Selfish people say no because they don't care about others. Self-aware people say no because they do care. They care enough about their purpose to protect it. They care enough about their family to provide for them. They care enough about their future to invest in it. When you say no to the wrong things, you're saying yes to the right things. When you say no to distractions, you're saying yes to your destiny. David finally understood that his no wasn't rejection, it was protection. He wasn't protecting himself from people. He was protecting his purpose from everything that would dilute it, delay it, or destroy it. He realized that every yes he gave away was energy that could have been invested in his vision. Every favor he did for free was time that could have been spent building his empire. Think about it this way. You have 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, 52 weeks in a year. That's it. That's all you get. Your time is not renewable, it's not refundable, and it's not unlimited. When you give your time away carelessly, you're spending the most valuable currency you possess on things that don't appreciate in value. David learned to see his time and energy like a bank account. Every request was a withdrawal. Every commitment was an expenditure. And just like any wise investor, he had to ask himself, what return am I getting on this investment? Is this withdrawal moving me closer to my goals or further away from them? When David finally started saying no to the wrong things, something miraculous happened. His yes became powerful again. When people knew that David's time was valuable, when they understood that his commitment meant something, when they realized that his yes was earned and not given, they respected it more. His software project got back on track. His investors renewed their confidence, and his company started growing at an exponential rate. The power behind the no isn't about being difficult or unreasonable. The power behind the no is about being intentional and purposeful. But let me share with you the hardest lesson about saying no. And it comes from the story of a woman named Angela. Angela was a single mother working 2 jobs to support her 8-year-old daughter. Every dollar she earned was precious. Every hour she worked was an investment in her child's future. Angela had dreams too. She wanted to go back to school, finish her nursing degree, create a better life for her family. She had been saving money slowly, carefully, putting aside $20 here, $50 there, building towards something better. Then her sister, Patricia, started calling. Patricia had always been the one who made poor choices, the one who spent her rent money on designer clothes, the one who borrowed money and forgot to pay it back, the one who lived for today without thinking about tomorrow. And Patricia knew exactly which buttons to push with Angela. She would call crying, talking about eviction notices and hungry children, painting pictures of desperation that would break any loving sister's heart. The first time, Angela gave Patricia $300. It was supposed to be for groceries, but Angela later saw Patricia posting pictures on social media from an expensive restaurant. The second time, Patricia needed money for car repairs, and Angela gave her $400. But the car never got fixed, and Patricia kept asking for rides everywhere. The third time, Patricia claimed she needed money for her children's school supplies, and Angela emptied her small savings account, $800 that had taken her months to accumulate. Each time Angela said yes to Patricia, she was saying no to her own future. Each time she rescued her sister from the consequences of poor choices, she was enabling those same poor choices to continue. And the most painful part was that Angela's generosity wasn't helping Patricia. It was actually hurting her by preventing her from learning the hard lessons that would make her grow. This is the heartbreaking truth about saying no. Sometimes love requires you to break someone's heart in the short term to save their soul in the long term. Sometimes caring about someone means allowing them to face the consequences of their choices. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's destructive patterns. Angela's breaking point came when Patricia called for the 5th time, asking for money for rent. But this time, Angela had finally learned to ask the right questions. She asked Patricia what had happened to all the money she had already given her. She asked why Patricia hadn't looked for a job. She asked why Patricia expected her sister to solve problems that Patricia had created. And for the first time in years, Angela said the word that would change everything: no. Patricia reacted exactly as Angela had feared. She cried. She accused Angela of being selfish. She brought up every sacrifice their mother had ever made. She threatened to cut off contact with Angela and her niece. She used guilt like a weapon. trying to make Angela feel responsible for Patricia's problems. But Angela had finally realized something crucial. She was not responsible for Patricia's choices, but she was responsible for her own. The guilt tried to consume Angela. She questioned herself, wondering if she was being too harsh, too cold, too unforgiving. But then she looked at her daughter, sleeping peacefully in her bed, trusting that her mother would create a better future for them both. And Angela realized that saying no to Patricia's manipulation was actually saying yes to her daughter's dreams. When you learn to say no, you discover that some people will try to manipulate you with guilt, anger, or emotional blackmail. They will make you feel like you're being mean, selfish, or uncaring. But here's what you must understand. Their reaction to your boundaries reveals their true intentions. Now that you understand why you must say no, let me teach you how to say it with grace, wisdom, and power. This is where most people fail. They understand the principle, but they lack the practice. They know they should set boundaries, but they don't know how to build them without burning bridges. There's an art to saying no that preserves relationships while protecting your priorities. It's not about being rude or harsh. It's about being clear and kind. It's not about making enemies. It's about making your position understood. The goal is not to hurt people. The goal is to help them understand that your time, energy, and resources have value. When someone makes a request that you need to decline, the first thing you must remember is this: you don't owe anyone an explanation for your no. The moment you start explaining and justifying your decision, you're actually weakening your position. You're suggesting that your no is negotiable, that if they can just overcome your objections, you might change your mind. A simple, respectful no is more powerful than a complicated, apologetic explanation. I won't be able to help with that is complete. I'm not available for that project, needs no further discussion. That doesn't align with my current priorities, stands on its own. You don't need to list your other commitments, explain your financial situation, or justify your choices to anyone. But here's where wisdom comes in. Sometimes you can soften the impact of your no by offering an alternative that doesn't cost you your priorities. Instead of saying yes to babysitting for the entire weekend, you might say, I can't watch the kids all weekend, but I could take them for 2 hours on Saturday afternoon. Instead of agreeing to handle someone's entire project, you might say, I can't take on the whole project, but I can recommend someone who might be perfect for it. This approach shows that you care about the person and their need, but you're not willing to sacrifice your boundaries to meet that need. You're being helpful within your limits rather than helpful beyond your capacity. Watch how people respond to your boundaries. Their reaction will tell you everything you need to know about their character and their intentions. People who respect you will accept your no gracefully. They might be disappointed, but they won't try to manipulate, guilt, or pressure you into changing your mind. These are the people worth keeping in your life. But there will be others who react to your no with anger, accusations, or attempts to make you feel guilty. They will question your priorities, attack your character, or threaten to end the relationship. These reactions are not about you. They're about them. They're revealing that they see you as a resource to be used rather than a person to be respected. Don't let their reaction make you doubt your decision. Don't let their anger make you feel guilty. Don't let their accusations make you question your worth. When someone gets upset because you won't let them take advantage of you, that's confirmation that you made the right choice. The strongest people I know are not those who never say no. They're those who say no with confidence and without apology. They understand that their boundaries are not suggestions. They're non-negotiable principles that guide their decisions. They've learned that saying no to the wrong people and wrong opportunities creates space for the right people and right opportunities to enter their lives. Your no is not a rejection of people, it's a protection of your purpose. Let me take you back to Maria, the architect we met at the beginning. 6 months after that Tuesday night when she decided to change her life, Maria was sitting in the city council chambers watching the mayor announce the approval of her community center project. The same sketches that had been gathering dust on her table while she ran errands for everyone else were now going to become a reality that would serve thousands of people for generations to come. But the transformation didn't happen overnight, and it wasn't easy. The first time Maria said no to her brother's request to help him move, he was shocked. He had become so accustomed to her automatic yes that he didn't even have a backup plan. He called her selfish, reminded her of all the times he had helped her in the past, and even got their mother involved to guilt her into changing her mind. But Maria held firm. She had learned that other people's emergencies were not automatically her priorities. The second test came when her neighbor asked her to watch her children for the weekend so she could go on a romantic getaway. The old Maria would have canceled her own plans and said yes immediately. But the new Maria looked at her calendar, saw that she had blocked out that weekend to work on her community center proposal, and said, I won't be able to help with that, but I can recommend a babysitter I know who's excellent with children. Her neighbor was disappointed, but she found another solution, and their relationship actually improved because the neighbor began to respect Maria's time more within 3 months of learning to say no. Maria's life began to transform in ways she had never expected. The hours she had been spending on other people's priorities were now invested in her own dreams. The energy she had been giving away for free was now channeled into creating something meaningful. The mental space that had been cluttered with everyone else's problems was now clear and focused on her vision. But the most surprising change was how people began to treat her. When Maria's yes became rare, it became valuable. When her time became protected, it became precious. When her commitment became selective, it became sought after. People stopped calling her with every small request because they knew she wouldn't automatically say yes. But when they had something truly important, something that aligned with her values and goals, they still called, and they approached her with respect rather than expectation. Maria discovered that when you master the art of saying no, your yes carries weight. When people know that you've said no to other opportunities to say yes to theirs, they value your commitment more. When they understand that your time is limited and your energy is precious, they don't take your generosity for granted. The community center project that Maria designed didn't just change her life, it changed her entire community. But here's the truth that will blow your mind. That project would never have existed if Maria hadn't learned to say no to all the small things that were keeping her from the big thing. Every favor she declined, every request she redirected, every boundary she maintained was actually an investment in something greater than herself. Maria's story reminds us that when you say no to the good, you create space for the great. When you say no to the convenient, you create opportunity for the significant. When you say no to being everyone's helper, you create the possibility of being someone's hero. But the transformation goes deeper than just accomplishing your goals. When you learn to say no, you develop something that money can't buy and education can't teach. You develop self-respect. You begin to see yourself as someone whose time matters, whose dreams are valid, whose purpose is important. You stop apologizing for having boundaries and start celebrating the clarity they bring to your life. Maria found that people who truly cared about her supported her new boundaries. Her real friends were happy to see her pursuing her dreams. Her genuine relationships became stronger because they were built on mutual respect rather than one-sided giving. The people who got angry about her boundaries revealed themselves to be users, not friends. And losing them wasn't a loss. It was liberation. Today, Maria runs her own architectural firm. She chooses her projects based on passion and purpose, not obligation and guilt. She has learned to say yes to opportunities that excite her and no to commitments that drain her. Her calendar reflects her priorities, not other people's emergencies. Her energy flows toward her vision, not everyone else's convenience. But Maria will tell you that the greatest gift of learning to say no wasn't the success, the recognition, or the achievement. It was the return of her identity. She remembers who she is, what she wants, and where she's going. She lives her life on her own terms, while still being kind, generous, and helpful to others, but now on her terms, not theirs. This is what awaits you on the other side of learning to say no. This is the life that becomes possible when you stop being afraid to disappoint people and start being committed to not disappointing yourself. This is what happens when you realize that your dreams are not selfish, they are necessary. The person you become when you master the word no is not harder or meaner. You become more focused, more intentional, more purposeful. You become someone who knows their worth and protects their value. You become someone whose word means something because you don't give it away carelessly. Your relationships improve because they're built on respect rather than convenience. Your goals become achievable because your energy is focused rather than scattered. Your life becomes meaningful because you're living according to your values rather than everyone else's expectations. But here's what you must understand. This transformation begins with a single decision. It begins with the next request you receive, the next favor someone asks, the next time someone expects you to drop everything for their convenience. That moment when you feel the familiar pressure to say yes automatically, that's your moment of power. That's when you choose between the life you've been living and the life you're meant to live. Starting today, I challenge you to protect your purpose with the same intensity that you've been protecting other people's feelings. Starting today, I challenge you to value your time with the same care that you've been valuing other people's convenience. Starting today, I challenge you to say no to what doesn't serve your destiny so you can say yes to what does. Your dreams are waiting for you on the other side of your fear to disappoint others. Your destiny is calling to you from beyond your need to be needed by everyone. Your purpose is ready to unfold, but it requires you to stop being everyone else's solution and start being your own priority. The word no is not about building walls, it's about opening doors. It's not about ending relationships, it's about improving them. It's not about being selfish, it's about being purposeful. Learn to say it with confidence, use it with wisdom, and watch how it transforms not just your schedule, but your entire life. Today is the day you stop being afraid to break their heart and start being committed to not breaking your own. Today is the day you choose your dreams over their disappointment. Today is the day you learn to say no, even if it breaks their heart, because saying yes to everyone else's agenda has been breaking yours for far too long.